I don't really work with a lot of people who look or who have the same background as I do. I've lived a very privileged life. I have parents who were really well educated. They made really good income throughout their lives. And I have a high level of education, and I have a reasonably high level of income as well. And so I don't often work with, let's just say, other straight white men. There are plenty of them out there. There are a lot of especially white guys in my field, but I don't tend to work with them very much. I tend to work with people who have a range of different experiences and whose background is very, very different than mine is. Honestly, I just don't really have the time or inclination, need, or desire to work with a lot of people who share my characteristics, who are from the same kind of areas or the same kind of background as I do. And I think this started more or less back in my bachelor's degree, or at least the origins of this kind of attitude or opinion started back in my bachelor's degree. I was always looking for my niche. I was always trying to avoid the mainstream of what everybody else was doing and find something selective. I was always trying to find something that was really particular or really narrow in interest. And in doing so, I was often concerned with minority interests and with the interests of groups of people who were very small. The group themselves, the population of those people were very small. So it ended up being that I would focus on underrepresented issues, both in my bachelor's degree and especially as I moved into my master's degree. When I first started teaching, so now let's fast forward a few years, right? I did my master's degree, got out of there, and I started looking for PhD programs and different opportunities to do research. And again, I was looking at these really selective, narrow fields of interest. So I ended up focusing on this issue of universal design, as most of you probably already know. But then I started pursuing my academic career and I started teaching. So my first year of teaching was kind of formative for me because at the beginning of class, I kind of opened it up and said, look, I'm new to this. I don't quite know what I'm doing. Give me feedback. Tell me what I'm doing right. Tell me what I can be better at so that I can improve my abilities. And that open invitation kind of started a chain reaction where people would come to me and tell me, students would come to me and tell me what I could do better, what I could improve upon. And the first student that did that was a woman of Asian background, and she with immigrant parents. And she gave me a lot of great tips. And every year since then, I found that the students who kind of come up and provide me with that input and that feedback tend to be from underrepresented groups. So they would be women, they would be groups of immigrants, they would be groups from minority backgrounds, racial and ethnic minority backgrounds, students with disabilities. They would always be the ones who would kind of take that call to action and give me feedback and give me input. So I began working with them. So they were the ones that I ended up hiring as teaching assistants. They were the ones that I ended up collaborating with on innovation projects and entrepreneurial projects. And it was super, super rewarding for me because that diversity always brought a richness into my life. It always enabled me to kind of capture broader issues in a new way from a different angle. And it really not just fed my soul, but it fed my career. Now I today mentor around 7 people per year. I kind of have a mentee list and I look at it every so often, and I make sure that those 7 people are getting my individual attention. Now, I'm going to unapologetically say that all 7 of those people come from underrepresented backgrounds, underrepresented in my field. And I deliberately focus on this. I deliberately focus on mentoring, working with, collaborating with groups of underrepresented people. And I think this is absolutely important and critical because groups that come from privileged backgrounds will always end up achieving success. They honestly don't need my help, and most of them don't even want my help. But it's the groups that are underrepresented, that are disadvantaged in one way or shape or form. Those are the individuals that I can truly enable, empower, support, lift up, and help accelerate their careers. By surrounding myself with them, they're the first ones, they're the first in line for any opportunities that come up in the course of my work. So I think this is a really important way in which I've approached my work and my life, and I think it helps rebalance some of these issues of power and privilege in the world that we live in, some of these inequalities that exist. Now, you might be saying, Anthony, but what about qualifications and merit and accomplishments and experience and stuff like that? Yeah, sure. These are absolutely essential. It's important to surround yourself with people who are capable. But there's two different ways of thinking about capability. One is a proven track record, which is kind of best evidence, right? You know that people who have done something really well will probably do that thing well in the future. But it's not the only indicator, and it's not even necessarily an indicator that I focus on excluding all other indicators. What I really look at is the journey somebody's taking, where they started, and how far they've gotten, and then look at their potential for future growth. That's what helps me decide who I spend my time and energy into mentoring. That's what helps guide me when I'm thinking about who I want to work with, who I want to collaborate with, and who I want to give my individualized attention. So it's not only about merit. Merit makes up part of that equation, but it's also about potential and growth. It's being able to see somebody who came from level -10 and has brought themselves up to a level where I can help accelerate them further. And that's different than taking somebody who maybe started off at level 1 and then helping them get to level 5 or 10 or whatever that is. Just an example and a weird kind of way of making it into a number. Anyways, the takeaway here is one thing and one thing only. If you're working with other people and you have the option to select who you're working with, do not take into consideration just merit. Don't take into consideration just the fact that they've done something or experienced something. Take into account their journey. Where did they come from? How far have they gotten? And then think about what their potential is to go forward, because they may be the ones that can truly change things. They may be the ones who can blow up your field or who can help accelerate not only their career, but your career as well.